work on and consciously, fight back that urge to self-sabotage. It does come from a term. It's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is kind of the difference between how you see yourself and then your reality. The gap between how you see yourself, and who you are in your life and what you deserve and all that, and then the gap between that and what you're actually living. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Consider Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Eric King, and welcome back. Man, it's been a heck of a year. 2023 was crazy, and I'm going to update you guys on all those things because I literally went from posting basically every week, 42 episodes back in 2022. If you haven't checked it out, you should. Went from doing that to where we are here today, bringing it to the visual space. So for those of you returning, hey, man, good to see you again. You missed your boy. I missed y'all too. For those of you who haven't been here and heard of us before, this is the Consider Your Mind podcast where we do all things mental health over here. So originally this journey started with a duo, myself and my boy Mino. I'm going to give you an update on that later on, just to catch you up on what's been going on, man. This whole thing basically started with my own personal journey of mental health discovery, which was, taking this initiative to go ahead and get myself a therapist, get some of the help that I believed that I needed at the time. And with me being open to that and being open about it and letting people know what I was doing, the reaction was so positive. It was so overwhelmingly, hey man, this is something I wish that, I had the courage to do. I wish that my auntie would do. I wish that my daughter would do. So many times they know that they need some mental health help, but there's such a stigma attached to it. So that's what we try to do with this platform, the Consider Your Mind platform, trying to destigmatize getting mental health because we need to prioritize it just as much as your physical health, your financial health, your relationship health. None of that stuff is going to matter if your mental health isn't right. It was through being open and having those conversations with people about what I was going through with therapy that my boy Mino, he had the idea in the group chat, because all good ideas come through the group chat. He said, man, hey man, we should start a podcast with this thing talking about that, because he was the first person that ever told me anything about mental health, which was his journey through anxiety. Whole podcast about it, go back, check it out. From that, hey, we basically trademarked the name, got this platform going, and just started dropping, podcasts every week. But we were just doing audio. But now that we moved over to the digital space, obviously we're gonna, shorten it up a little bit. But it allows us to do a little bit more and allows us to make our product a little bit more consumable for you all. Let's start back from the beginning. When we first started doing this, did not know what we were doing at all. Just had an idea. Just had a pretty cool name, Consider Your Mind, right? Had a little bit of a logo. We found the power was in the vulnerability. We found that the power was in us speaking about what we were going through and being honest about it and transparent and really putting ourselves out there, which empowered and enabled so many other people to be transparent and honest about what they were going through. And so our goal of this whole thing was to kind of start a community, kind of start a dialogue, and normalize and going and prioritizing your mental health. And so my journey with my therapist, Ron, shout out to you, Ron. We did 2 years, together, basically meeting at least once a month, but sometimes twice a month. And it started in the fall of 2021. Took me through this thing called the Enneagram test. And so yeah, Enneagram, put it around there. It's a test you can take, costs you a couple bucks, but what it really does is it breaks out yourself into different types of personalities. Because the more you know about yourself, the more you can understand about, so many things aren't broken with you. Sometimes it's a feature, not a bug. And when we went through my, test, I found out that I'm a number 9 personality. And now the thing is, like, okay, number 9. Well, the thing that characterizes number 9 is it's a lot easier for us to do things on the behalf of others. Actually, if it's left up to me, man, I chill. I'm pretty, object at rest, stays at rest type of guy. But when it comes to others, when it comes to being part of a team, I think that's why I've always gravitated towards that. I know how to be part of a team. I know how to get active, play a role. And if it's about more than myself, it's much easier for me to get motivated, to do it. And so with that in mind, one of the things that we worked on in therapy was my mindfulness. Sometimes I found that in relationships or just with people in general, I could escape the room without ever leaving. I'm the guy, I could be right there nodding and smiling, and have left mentally. And I wanted to start showing up in my life more. A lot of my time I spent, again, checking out, not being present, not enjoying the people and the relationships in my life. And so I found out that when I'm not present with myself, it's very difficult for me to be present with others. So again, like I said, if I'm object at rest, stay at rest, isolate, it's very easy for me to do. One thing that, was a suggestion, or kind of prescription, for my type of personality, be active, get in the gym, use my body physically, because the more I'm aware of my own body, the more, even the soreness, even the bad stuff, even the weaknesses, the more you're consciously aware of your own self, the easier it is for me to go ahead and then care about others. If I'm caring about my own body, my own well-being, my own health, well then that's gonna allow me to go ahead and have that capacity to reach out and care about others, take an investment and be present with them and what they're going through. And so there's simple things like that. And again, go to the gym. Wow. However, it's not just that, it's what's behind it, what's driving your motivations behind, what you're doing. Sometimes it's not all about being the most in shape person. Sometimes it's not all about being the most mentally healthy person. This isn't a contest, but it's about improving and being the best you that you can be. As corny as that sounds, it is the truth. And so that's something we worked on, over the course of 2 years. And a big part of that is, again, recognizing, who you are, yourself, your triggers, what things and patterns you fall into. A big theme of what our therapy worked on was self-sabotage. Preventing self-sabotage is so important. We all have a fear of failure. I think that's natural. It's kind of built into us. However, there is also a fear of success. What happens when you win? What happens when you succeed? What happens when that issue is addressed and you deal with it? All right, well then, all right, what else what was that a distraction for you from? I'm one of those procrastinator type of people. Again, personality types. Had a whole episode on procrastination. Go back, check it out. And literally, you can tell if there's something important I have to do, because I'll start doing everything else but that. If I know that I need to do something important, there's a deadline. It goes way back to college, I believe. That's when people could tell, end of the semester, midterms, things like that. Anytime I had something major due, all of a sudden I was very productive. I'm getting laundry done. I'm, cleaning dishes. I'm doing all the other stuff. Anything else that was a priority, that is a good thing, but it's not a priority at that time. But then, you make it to, again, distract yourself, give yourself less time. A lot of times you can end up, like I said, self-sabotaging, your own endeavors. And I know it's tough, because sometimes when you don't have the one thing that you do want, then it's like, forget everything else. I don't have, the relationship I want. I don't have the job I want. I don't have, whatever it is, the money I want. So whatever, but if I don't have that, then throw the rest of it away. That's what we have to consciously, work on, and consciously, fight back that urge to self-sabotage. It does come from a term. It's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is kind of the difference between how you see yourself and then your reality. The gap between how you see yourself, and who you are in your life and what you deserve and all that, and then the gap between that and what you're actually living. You could have a perfectly good relationship. You could, that person could be treating you well, everything is well. However, if you're a person that doesn't believe that you're worthy of love, doesn't deserve that you're worthy of a good person, you'll go ahead and do things to sabotage that relationship so that it matches who you think you are. You could be doing good well financially, have a family successfully, things like that. You can be doing well from the outside looking in, by all, earthly measures. However, if it doesn't match who you are on the inside, how you feel that you are, what you deserve and who you are, well then you'll go ahead and sabotage or mess up those other things in your life that are going good to match yourself. I worked over a couple of years, with my therapist on at least a monthly basis to go ahead and go over those situations, over these activities and things that I'm doing in my life, where I can consciously see when I'm slipping. And it's okay. Sometimes we're not always progressing. That's another thing I learned. Hey, sometimes you're not always in a growth mode. Sometimes you're not always in a healthy mode where you're, we do have goals and things that we set, long-term goals, short-term goals. We all have them, even if it's subconscious. However, you'll find yourself doing activities and, things that are counter to those goals, counter to those things that we set out to do. That's not always, again, it sounds strange, but no, that's perfectly normal, because sometimes, hey, you're not in the mode to go ahead and go after that at the time. You're fulfilling another need. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We think, all right, once we can't get from this level to that level, and that level, like we have to fulfill all the needs on this level before we can get to the next one. That's how we kind of think of it a lot of times. However, that's not the truth. We need all those needs met, actually. All of them at the same time. It's like an ecosystem. Predators got to be there with the prey. We're subconsciously always trying to satisfy, those different needs, and at different times. And sometimes it can seem or be perceived as in conflict. Sometimes it's just not a productive or positive time, in your life that you're going through. And as my father would say, there's only 3 types of people in the world: people that are going through it, people that have been through it, and people that are about to go through And so if you're one of those three types of people, welcome. You're amongst friends. Welcome to the Consider Your Mind platform, where we're all going through something, about to go through something, or just been through something. And we just want to make a space so that you're comfortable enough sharing that. As we did our journey in the first season, we had a couple of returning guests. We're hoping to have them come back again. You'll be able to see them on the visual space. But one thing, I remember our guest, one of our guests, our hypnotherapist, Rupert Missick, he would say, like the old GI thing, now we know, and knowing is half the battle. And I remember that episode, he was saying specifically, no, knowing is not half the battle. Because a lot of us know what we're supposed to do. We know what our issue is. We know we're supposed to go to the gym. We know we're not supposed to be eating that. We know we're not supposed to be hanging with that person. We know all these things, right? However, we have to be patient with ourselves until that becomes a reality to us. Because how many times have we been in a situation and say, we go through something and think, man, I knew better. Man, I knew better than that. I knew that was going to happen. Well, the truth is, did you really? Sometimes you got to see it for yourself. Unfortunately, we try to make those times through therapy, through learning about ourselves, through working on our mental health. We try to ease those moments of pain for us so we don't got to bump our head. But man, some things we do just got to bump our head on. What we have to do is have the grace and the forgiveness, within ourselves to keep on going. Again, not to self-sabotage, not saying, oh, because I've messed up on this one thing and I can't have nothing else. This is why we can't have nice things. No. It's not like that at all. Fortunately, we are in a time where, we love things and use people when it's supposed to be the opposite way. We're supposed to love people and use things, and use those things and resources to go ahead and facilitate, that love for people. And so it's actually with that my therapist, he left me with. That's one of the things that he left me with. In our last session, of course, it was a little emotional. You can imagine after, 2 years, almost 2 years, being together, meeting regularly, getting involved, having conversations I don't have with other people, literally. Vulnerable with that person when that time was done, when he had to move on from the company because of conflict of interest things. You can't carry clients all the time like that. So it was what it was. But something that he did leave me, which I really appreciated. He left me a quote by actually a saint, Saint Teresa of Avila. And it says, the important thing is not to think much, but to love much. And so to do whatever best awakens you to love. Say it again. The important thing is not to think much, but to love much. And so do whatever best awakens you to love. Never forget it. This life is about relationships. And the more we invest in others, our mental health, the more we invest in ourselves, all those things, investing in the important things, ourselves, others, and our mind, the better life that we can have. Again, who followed us from the beginning. As I said, it started off with my friend Mino. Had this idea for this podcast after me sharing the name Consider Your Mind and the fact that I was in therapy. He said, hey man, this is a great idea. And we started off doing it together, and he was the man behind the scenes. He was my co-host. I did most of the talking, but he did all the graphics. He did everything, man. He was a creative director, the whole images of everything that you see, music, that was all him. And so it was so great to have that partner, so I could just use my gift of gab and just talk. And he could take care of that stuff behind the scenes. And he was really the one that did lead with the vulnerability. And one of the things that he was most vulnerable about was his health. This show is about mental health, but my brother, unfortunately, his physical health, started to take a real toll on him. He was dealing with kidney failure, at the time. And so he was powering through it, and everything was going good until about, in the summertime, midway through that first season, he had to go to the hospital. And basically that was the beginning of a long journey over the next year and a half of being in and out of the hospital. And up until this point, the filming of this video, being admitted into hospice care. Hey man, we love you. You're always gonna keep it, keep your name alive. That introduction, hello everybody. That's all Mino, man. So we're gonna keep your spirit alive. Keep that voluntary vulnerability that you always led with. That you pushed me in so many ways. I want to thank you, my brother. We keeping it going. We're keeping the movement moving. I love you. And again, the Consider Your Mind audience, they love you as well. So I thank you all for your well wishes. This is real life and we're living it. Happened during the podcast where people that you love, the relationships that you have with folks, even the capacity to go ahead and, fully realize those relationships, that can change. I got a smile on my face to keep the pain in my heart from showing right now. But y'all feel me, man. Y'all feel me, because y'all going through. We've all lost somebody that's close to us. It's usually just not done in such a public way. So to his family, to all his friends or whatever that I knew through him, you know, I'm with you. I'm mourning with you. We're sending love our way. And it's for things like that. It's real life, dealing with loss, dealing, with sickness, things like that. That's why we have to have our mind strong. You have to have your mind right, in this world, because it's going to throw you some curveballs. So, with that being said, thank you for rocking with me, and welcome back to the Consider Your Mind podcast, man. We back. 2024 is going to be bigger and better than ever, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you guys. And you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we do appreciate you. And until next time. Peace. Thank you so much for stopping by the Consider Your Mind podcast. I'm the host, Eric King, and we do all things mental health over here. Please make sure you stop by again on May 6th for our season 2 premiere featuring a licensed clinical therapist. We'll be covering a wide array of topics, and I know it'll be really informative to you all. Please make sure you subscribe. May 6th, season 2. See you there.